Hello everyone, hope all of you are doing good. All of you are having a good time at home. Stay indoors and stay safe, students. And at the same time, make sure you are also studying the subjects. Keep yourself updated with whatever is happening on the online classes. So, in continuation with the learning process, we will begin with a new module today in Elements of Mechanical Engineering, that is Module 4. We have already completed 3 modules, as you know. We have completed Module 2, Module 3 and Module 5, and now we are starting with the new module, that is Module 4. So let's get into the syllabus of this. So Module 4, as you can see in the slide itself, this is a lengthier module compared to any other module actually. So there's a lot of things that needs to be studied in this particular module. So it is basically into 4 parts. So we'll just see what are the things that you'll be studying one by one. So in the first part, you will have to study properties, composition and industrial application of engineering materials. So this entire concept is all about studying different types of materials. What are the different types of materials, what are its compositions, what are its properties, and what are their applications. So basically we have metals, and in metals we have 2 types, that is ferrous material and non-ferrous material. So under ferrous material you will have to study what is cast iron, tool steels, stainless steels, and then in non-ferrous materials you will have to study what is aluminium, brass, bronze, their chemical compositions, their properties and their applications. So that's a major classification between metal and non-metal. Metal in that ferrous and non-ferrous material. Then we have to study some of the non-metals like polymers, in which you have to study thermoplastic and thermosetting plastics or polymers. Then another set is ceramics. So different types of ceramics are glass, optical fibers, ceramides, etc. Then you will also have to study some other materials which are called as composite materials. I'm sure you would have heard of composite materials. Different categories of composite materials, that is FRCs and MMCs, that is fiber reinforced composites, and MMCs, that is metal matrix composites. Okay, and also the advanced materials, what we generally call them as smart materials. So what is smart materials? So what do you mean by piezoelectric materials? What are shape memory alloys? What are semiconductors and what are insulators? So in the initial part you will have to study all about materials here, different metals, non-metals, polymers, composites, ceramics and smart materials. Okay, then in the same module, next part will be something called as the joining processes. So there are 3 basic important types of joining processes, that is soldering, brazing and welding. Okay, so you'll have to study the definitions of these 3: what is soldering, what is brazing and what is welding, and also classification and methods of soldering, brazing and welding. So in these 3 you'll have to study soldering, brazing as well and welding as well. And in welding there are again several classifications, which are arc welding. Then we have gas welding. The most common gas welding is oxyacetylene welding. Then we also have to study something called as TIG welding and MIG welding. TIG means tungsten inert gas welding, and then you have MIG, that is metal inert gas welding. So you have to study these many types of welding in the second part. Moving on, in the third part, again it's a continuation here. It's something called as belt drives. Okay, it's a power transmission system. So if power has to be transmitted from one point to another point, then we have to use different methods. So there are 2 important methods that has been shown here. You will have to study here, that is belt drives as well as gear drives. So in belt drives you will have to study different types of belt drives, that is open belt drive and cross belt drive. Also you'll have to study the different definitions associated with belts, like slip of belt, creep, velocity ratios, and also you'll have to study the derivations for finding the length of the belt drive. Okay, so derivations for length of the belt drive in both open belt drive as well as cross belt drive. You'll also have to study ratio of tension in weld drives, advantages and disadvantages of V belts and timing belts, and also numericals associated with length of the belts. Okay, so that is one part. Then the last part is gear drives. So gear drives means it's another type of power transmission mechanism where we are using different gears for transmitting power from one point to another, generally when the distance is small. Okay, most of the automobiles and machine parts uses gear drives. So you'll have to study the different types of gears. First of all, what that is, one of them is called as spur gears, then helical gears, bevel gears, and then worm gears, and also there is something called as rack and pinion. Okay, again you will have to study the velocity ratios, advantages and disadvantages of gear drives over belt drives, and also simple problems associated with the velocity ratios of gear drives. So this complete portion will be coming under module 4. Okay, so to begin with, we will start with the first part, that is properties, compositions and industrial applications of engineering materials. Okay, so we will start with the first part, that is engineering materials. So what do you mean by engineering materials? So engineering materials are the one which are commonly used for various engineering applications. Okay, the materials will have a particular set of properties which can be used for specific engineering applications. So the selection of these materials for a particular project or a particular application becomes a very important activity which will actually describe the success and failure of the entire project. So any particular material which has been chosen for a particular application becomes very important. So that is why we need to know the different properties and its applications, where exactly to be used. Okay, so it can be of any particular domain. It can be civil engineering applications, mechanical engineering applications, electrical applications, IT, computer science applications, right? Because we need materials everywhere. So we need to know what best material can be used for a particular applications, right? For civil engineering basically deals with the entire materials for the construction purpose. Mechanical domain, they need materials for preparing tools, preparing work pieces, machine parts, etc. Similarly, for electronics industry and computers industry, you need to know what material to be used for circuits, what material to be used as in basically a very common semiconductor device, isn't it? So they use silicon and germanium. So you need to know what sort of material is best suited for a particular applications. So we are going to study of each of these engineering materials. So I have given all this introduction is because we are only going to study what do you mean by engineering materials, right? So these are the materials which are extensively used for engineering applications. All right. Okay, so introduction. Engineering materials, as I've told you, are defined as a solid substances which are manufactured and used for various engineering applications. All right, so for example, cast iron is a very strong material and a strong material in compression, but it is very weak in tension, and also it's very brittle in nature. Hence it is used for manufacturing pipes, machines and other automotive parts. Okay, this is just an example. I'm sure you, when I say about cast iron, you wouldn't know all the properties. This is an example given here saying that cast iron is a material which is generally very strong in taking compressive loads. Okay, but it is very weak when it is pulled or when tension is applied to that, and also it's very brittle in the sense it will break when we apply larger force. So we need to know with these properties where exactly it suits. So it is best applied for making automobile parts, machine parts and as well as pipes. Okay, so that's just an example. We will anyways go in depth with all of these materials. Okay, so this is the major classification of engineering materials. This is something that you need to know. So engineering materials are very broadly classified into two types. What are those? One is metal and other one is non-metal. Okay, so first major classification is one is metal and one is non-metal, and under metal they are classified into again two types. One is ferrous material and other one is non-ferrous material. Now what do you mean by ferrous material and what do you mean by non-ferrous material? In the name itself it suggests ferrous means iron. So the materials which contain iron in them are called as ferrous materials, and the materials which do not contain iron in them is called as non-ferrous materials. So you can list out some of the examples. So the ones which are classified as ferrous materials are wrought iron, carbon steels, cast iron, alloy steels, and many more, etc. Similarly, the metals which does not contain iron, very important ones: aluminium, copper, lead, tin, silver, zinc, nickel, etc. So all of these are classified as non-ferrous metals. Okay, both of them are metals, but under metals we have again classified them into ferrous material and non-ferrous material. Now that is one part. So the second major classification is non-metals. Okay, they are not metals at all, they don't contain any metal in them. So there are two classifications made in that. One is called as polymers and other one is called as ceramics. Okay, basically one is polymer and other one is ceramics. Polymer is generally plastic, ceramic doesn't contain any plastic in it. Okay, so in polymers there are two types. One is called as thermosetting plastic and other one is called as thermoplastic. We will see what is thermosetting plastic and what is thermoplastic later on. Then under ceramics also we have refractories, glass, abrasive materials, cements, concretes. All these are called as ceramics. So under thermosetting and thermoplastics we have phenol form, aldehyde, that which is generally called as bakelite, polyesters, resins, etc. In thermoplastics we have polyvinyl chloride, PVC, polyethylene, acrylics, and other resins. Okay, so these are classification, but more importantly you need to know what are polymers, what are the two types of polymers, and what are ceramics. Okay, and when it comes to metals, that is ferrous material and non-ferrous material, you need to individually know what that material contains, right? If it's a ferrous materials, for example wrought iron, what is the composition of wrought iron, what percentage of iron it contains, what percentage of other parts it contains, what are its mechanical properties, what are its thermal properties, and what are its applications. You basically need to know its composition, its properties, and its applications. Okay, so in the exam generally what they will ask is they may not specifically ask on a particular material and say explain these things. They generally ask in the exam question like write a note on ferrous materials, or write a note on non-ferrous materials, or explain composite materials, or explain polymers. So you need to know what these are, what are their compositions, what are their properties, and where they are used. So these many things you will have to write. General question will be like that: write a short note or explain ferrous material or non-ferrous material or composites or ceramics, etc. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. Metals. So we will start with one classification of engineering materials, the first category, that is metals. So in metals, as we have seen in the previous table, they are classified into two types. One is called the ferrous materials and the other one was called non-ferrous materials. So under what do you mean by ferrous materials? I have already told you this: the metal in which iron is the chief constituent, that is called as ferrous material. So that means that it is not 100% iron only in that. So major constituent above 90%, 90 to 95, 98% could be iron, and then we can have small other components also. Okay, depending upon where they are used, they are categorized into different names. Okay, so that's called as ferrous materials. Now non-ferrous materials are the ones which do not contain any iron in them. They are called as non-ferrous materials. So if you want to see the examples, I think we have seen that in the previous slide itself. Ferrous materials may be cast irons, steels, wrought iron, pig iron, etc. Non-ferrous materials example are aluminium, copper, zinc, tin, nickel, etc. Okay, So this is not really important, but the chart which tells you the different physical properties of metals. So you can see the different metals are given in this. I will really not go through into each of them. It is not really important for us to know each of the things, but what I want to say is called as, what do you mean by physical properties? Right. So I've told you, right, you need to know some of the properties of materials. So physical properties means what is the density, what is the melting point, what is the thermal conductivity, and what is the coefficient of linear expansion. All these things are classified as physical properties. Similarly, you'll have to know something called as mechanical properties also. So in physical properties, if you are going to see, you based on the density of the material, you can know where exactly they can be used. If the density is more, where it has to be used. If the density is less, where it can be used. Depending on the melting point, depending upon the conductivity, that is thermal conductivity as well as electrical conductivity, we know where the applications of this will come. If it is having a very good thermal conductivity, they can be used at transferring heat from one place to another. Right, they can be used there. If it has very good electrical conductivity, it can be used in electrical appliances, so that there is less loss of power. Right, so all these things, properties, will determine where exactly they have to be used. Okay, so previous one was the physical properties. So the next one what we have is mechanical properties. So there are some of the list given here, one by one. We'll just quickly go through these things. So what do you mean by mechanical properties? Right, so first one is called as strength. So strength of that particular material. So it is defined as the ability of the material to resist the externally applied forces without breaking or yielding. Okay, the strength of the material means when some external force is applied on that. It can be any form, right? It can be mechanical force or hydraulic force or any force that is applied on that. So how long the material can resist without forming any breakage or without yielding, that is without any change in its dimension, that is called as its strength. Okay, so the internal resistance that is offered by a part to the applied force is called as stress. Okay, that means when some force is applied on a particular material externally, there will be an internal resistance against that force, so that it stays as it is without deforming, and that internal force that is developed is called as stress within the material. Okay, so next one is called as stiffness. So what do you mean by stiffness? It is the ability of the material to resist deformation under stress. Okay, so you may feel that strength and stiffness is same, but strength is a different meaning, stiffness is a different meaning. So if the material is more stiffer, longer time it can resist the force. The ability of the material to resist deformation under stress is called as stiffness. Okay, next one is elasticity. So what do you mean by elasticity? It is the property of the material to regain its original shape after deformation when the external forces are removed. Okay, so you know the material, some of the materials are very elastic in nature, some of the materials are very rigid. So rubber, as you know, is a very good elastic material. So what happens is, suppose if you apply a tensile force on that, that is when you try to pull that material, what happens is it immediately deforms, isn't it? It will stretch. If you try to stretch a rubber band, for example, if you try to stretch it, that is pull it from either side, it will immediately extend or stretch. But what happens is, the moment you leave the load, or when you release that stretching, it will come back to its original position. That property of the material is called as elasticity. So some of the materials are very much elastic and some of the materials are not elastic. Okay, next one called as plasticity. Now what is plasticity? It is the property of the material to retain the deformation produced under the load permanently. This property of the material is necessary for forging, stamping images and coins, and in ornamental work. So I hope you understood the difference between elasticity and plasticity. So when it comes to mechanical concepts, this plasticity becomes important. See, when we apply a particular load, if we are able to deform it permanently, then it is possible for us to give any particular shape to that easily. Right. So if a material wants to be the raw material, whatever we have, maybe in the form of a cube or in the form of a bar or a form of a rod. If you want to change the shape of that material, then it has to undergo plastic deformation. That means when you are heating that material, it will, and when we apply force onto that, what will happen when we hammer it or any other force is applied on that, if the deformation whatever is occurring becomes permanent, that means it stays in that deformed shape, then it is easily made into any particular shape, isn't it? So that's why it's told that this property of the material becomes necessary in forging. So forging means it's an operation where you heat the metal and you strike the hammer and give different shapes to the metals. So if it is too much elastic, what will happen? You will try to heat it, you will beat that, and it again comes back to its original shape. And there is no point in using that material, right? So if it stays in the permanent deformation for a longer, that is permanently, the deformation becomes permanent, then we can give any shape into that. So the application will be as it is mentioned here in stamping images on coins, as well as in making ornamental works, so in jewelries and other things. So you heat it, and when you make it into a particular shape, it will permanently remain there. So that property is called as plasticity. So next one, another mechanical property, that is called as ductility. Now what do you mean by ductility? Ductility is a property of the material enabling it to be drawn into wire with the application of tensile force. Okay, so ductility is basically a property of a material where when tensile force is acting, tensile means you are pulling it from either side, stretching it from either side, it should not break. Okay, rather it should go on getting deformed continuously. So what will happen is, suppose if there is a rod and if I am applying tensile force on that, its diameter will go on reducing, but at the same time the length goes on increasing without breaking. If that is possible in some materials, that is called as a very good ductile material. Okay, so where can we use such kind of a materials? It is used in making wires. So in electrical wires, you can see which material do we generally use. We generally use aluminium, and in some highly required components like ACs and fridges, we use copper, right? So we have to make that into wires. So if you try to pull it, and if it cuts, and if it is not able to make into that place, then we cannot use that material, right? So but aluminium, copper, and even other materials will be very much ductile in nature. So what will happen is, when we apply tensile force onto that, they can be drawn into wires. That's why we are able to get copper wires as well as aluminium wires, because of this ductility property. Okay, a ductile material must be strong and as well as plastic. It should be strong and it should be plastic, both properties. It should not cut, and the deformation should be permanent. The ductility is usually measured by the terms of percentage elongation in length as well as reduction in area. The ductile material commonly used in engineering applications are mild steel, copper, aluminium, zinc, etc. Right. So I have already mentioned all of these things. So the ability of the material to be drawn into wire is called as ductility. Okay, so next one is brittleness. Now what do you mean by brittleness? It's a property of the material which is absolutely opposite to ductility. So it is a property of breaking of a material with little permanent distortion. So brittle materials, when subjected to tensile load, snap off without giving any sensible elongation. Cast iron is one of the example for brittle material. So what does brittle material mean? A very good example for brittle material is glass. Okay, so what happens is, as it's mentioned here, it's opposite to ductility. In ductility, what happens? If you try to stretch that material, right, when you apply tensile forces, they will not break. Rather, they start reducing in its diameter, and they start increasing in length without breaking, right? So that they can be made into very lengthier rods, or becomes wires in the end, as you can stretch it further. That is a property of ductility. Now brittleness means, if you try to do the same with the brittle material, it will not extend at all, it will not elongate at all in the first place, rather it will cut immediately. So that is called as brittle. Okay, so glass, as I told you an example, you can imagine if you hold glass on either side and try to apply tensile force on that, you think the glass will extend? No, it will immediately break because of the application of force. So such materials are called as brittle materials. Okay, next one is called as malleability. So malleability is another form where they don't break, but instead of applying tensile force, we are trying to apply compressive force. That means you're trying to press that material, and even then the material will not break, rather it will start reducing in length and increasing in its thickness. So it's a special form of ductility only. In ductility, we are trying to make that, stretching that and trying to make that into wires. In malleability, we are actually trying to press it or compress it and trying to make that into sheets. Okay, so you now know the applications of malleability. That means if you are able to make that into sheets, then we say that it has got a very good malleable property. So you know some of the materials which has to be used as sheets. Again, it's the same materials. It's aluminium, it's lead, then copper, where we can make that into sheets, right? We have copper sheets, we have aluminium sheets, we have aluminium foils also. That means it generally can be made into any, we can crush it and make it into as thin as possible, right? So it is a property of the material to be made into sheets, that is called as malleability. Property of the material to be drawn into wires is called as ductility.